Hey guys, we're live. It's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. It's Friday. I'm excited about Friday. I'm always excited about any day that we're alive. And I'm excited finally to get Matt Morgan back on the show. Matt Morgan is now Mayor Matt Morgan. He was not then. He was just coming on a show because Brett Schulman told us all to come on a show. Uh, but welcome to the show, my friend. Tell them a little bit about you. You know, I gave clues. I think the blueprint and the title should have given some of it away, but I'll let you tell your story. You tell it best. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me back on. It was fun last time, and it's an honor to be back on again, obviously. You do great work in our community. You interview a lot of different people with vast backgrounds, and especially in today's day and age, it is imperative that more people have more information. So you do you're a big part of that process.
Thank you, Matt, for that. Appreciate it.
You have a very good, vast background of people, which is important.
Try to get them all on. They all have a story. They all have a journey. And they all have business that they want to get accomplished. So I'm here to help promote that. Thank you for recognizing.
How far do you want me to go back?
Go as far as you'd like, Matt. We want to hear the whole story. I mean, I think you have one of the most fascinating stories on the planet. You have done a lot, been a lot of things to a lot of people. So I'll let you dig in.
So I've got to go. I got to tell the story. I got to go all the way back. I got to go all the way back to, believe it or not, kindergarten and first grade, where I was thrown out of 4 grammar schools before first grade, where every principal, forget every teacher, but every principal thought I had major behavioral issues. This is back in the early 80s, and nobody knew what was wrong with me. Well, my mom goes ahead and sees this ad in the Bridgeport Post, where I'm from up in Connecticut, and it's for Yale University that's going to be doing these upcoming test studies. Well, I go to Yale University, and they do this testing on me for about a whole week. I'm hospitalized there. They have all these contraptions on my head and like sensors and things like that. This weird little gimmick they put on my belt, I remember as a little boy as well. I was really young, obviously. I was like 5, I believe. Wow. And a long story short, it would monitor my heart rate. It would monitor when I would get excited, and most importantly, be able to start to predict when I would become impulsive. And through this Yale University study, it was discovered I had what was called attention deficit disorder. Back then, nobody knew what ADD was. That was not even a real thing just yet. And so I was one of the first guinea pigs, if you will, lack of a better term, on the subject of ADD.
How forward thinking of your mom.
That combined with, there's nothing wrong with my son, there's something wrong with your school. That was my mom's attitude.
I love it.
Like every other mom, I'm guessing, right? Awesome. So, and that was the parent, I totally see that. But nonetheless, this was big because once we figured out I had ADD, we had to get me into a different school, a public school, but a different school out of our network a little bit. And it was called guided learning. It was a special education class. So now from 1st through 5th grade, I rode the small bus to school, and I had kids of all different shapes, sizes, makes, and models of disabilities on this bus and in my classroom with me. They used to group us all together. So I had kids that maybe had some mental retardation. They had physical disabilities. They just group us all together. It's wild when I think back now. But at the time, believe it or not, that class, that special ed, it gave me a huge structure. I had to learn inside of a cubicle. I was not allowed to be in the mainstream classroom with other kids around me. Wow. And because of this, as crazy as it sounds, it worked. It helped me zone in, and I had no choice but to do my work, read my various books. And then when it was time for me to comprehend it and do a test, I would be one-on-one with a special education teacher. Mrs. Carter was her name. And so I learned at a very young age, right then and there, because of all the mainstream kids making fun of me and bullying me every day, calling me the kindergarten kid, calling me all these terrible things, because I stayed back in kindergarten, and all these rotten names. It acted in a weird way as a device to say, okay, what do I have to do to get out of here?
Right.
I'm going to have to work my tail. I'm going to have to work my tail off. And so I learned, I'm not exaggerating, I would say probably about second or third grade, I would say, is when it clicked what work ethic was all about. If I put my butt into this as hard as I could, right? I'd work my booty off. Good things are going to come of this. And I slowly started to get rewarded. They would let me get sprinkled into mainstream classes for like gym class, like safe subjects for them, for me not to disrupt and mess up and things like that. And it was a big confidence booster though for me. And from there, it was just game over as far as what work ethic now was going to become in my life. For every single thing I do, it doesn't matter what it is that I'm doing. I could be cutting my grass, I could be cleaning my pool, I could, you name it. I have to put 1,000% into it, or I lose myself. I lose my mind over it. Like, I am that intense about anything I put into anything. I just don't kind of
That served you well, though. That served you well career-wise, and you know,
it really
give them an
did.
idea. Like, you go through. It's one thing to have that second and third grade, but you applied that throughout. I mean, you've never stopped with that attitude or that belief system.
Oh my God. Listen, and then I got introduced to sports. So now we have behavior modification working as a young boy, helping me. All right. As well as sports implementation, which now I could take a lot of my angst out, a lot of my built up energy from that classroom out on the playground through sports, basketball, football, baseball. They became huge parts of my life now. Because again, with sports, you do get a little bit of that instant gratification. If you work hard at it, you're going to see improvements, just like my schoolwork. So then eventually I work my way up through middle school. I get mainstreamed. I made honor rolls. And then I move on and I become the first college graduate in my family. I went to Monmouth University first, and then Chaminade University as the first person in my county to receive to sign a national letter of intent for a full NCAA basketball scholarship.
Wow.
But it all goes back to that story, in my opinion, of what has helped form me into the man I am today. And it's just been sky's the limit since then. I mean, since I was 6 years old, Ted, I always wanted to be a WWE superstar. I said it every Saturday morning. My parents were like, yeah, right, sure, kid. My brother would be like, yeah, right, and then just beat me up probably. But no, I had a lot of razzing on the playground about it, but I didn't care. I was dead set on I'm going to be a WWE wrestler somehow. And so I'm very fortunate. I was able to live up my childhood dream and be a professional wrestler for 13 years.
Where did your name come from?
Never got the blueprint.
Yes.
The blueprint. I just had gotten signed by WWE. I was in their AAA farm team, if you will, version, where I was learning and owning my craft every day. And they have a television show there for their minor league version of their company at the time called Ohio Valley Wrestling. And I was out there, and they were really building me up as the next big thing, which was Brock Lesnar's name at the time, the next big thing. So they were predicting I was going to be the next Brock Lesnar, essentially, which is a huge honor. All right. But I don't want to be compared to anybody, right? So I said, look, I'm not the next big whatever you're calling me. I'm the first. I'm the first walking, talking, living, breathing, running, jumping, athletic, thinking man's giant this sport has ever had. And by the way, I'm a bad guy. Keep this in mind. And I say, hell, if the Lord could build a blueprint of the perfect athlete, you're looking at him. Super cocky, super over the top. The fans started booing me like unmercifully. And I was like, we got something here, because that's the job of a villain. You got to make people hate you so they like your opponent more. That was my job.
I love that story. I remember you told it the last time, but I like hearing it because it's so good. And then you talk about you being the villain. I can't imagine that, but I've gone back once or twice and looked, because you're all over YouTube and all over the internet. I mean, you're everywhere. All you have to do is Google the blueprint, and you'll find you. But I love it because you're a big guy. You're intimidating. So I can imagine on the villain side. But you're such a nice, sweet human being. That's just such an interesting thing. Was it hard to be in that persona?
Yeah, because I don't care who you are. People could talk tough all they want, but at the end of the day, we all want to be liked.
Right.
I'm sorry. People that say, "Oh, I don't care if this person likes me or not." Yes, you do. We all do, to some degree. There's those that you're not going to make happy. There's just sometimes there's no way around it, and you try your best. But early on, yeah, it was kind of hard. But then it got easier because look, at the end of the day, it was a job as what put food on the table for me and my wife, my future wife at the time. So here's the deal. It's easier to tell the story of David versus Goliath, right? Versus
Yes.
Goliath versus Goliath, or David versus David. So because I'm bigger than everybody else, it is natural for them to feel empathetic for my opponent than I me. I'm not going to get any empathy. I'm not going to get any
Right.
sympathy.
No, you're not.
So it's easy. So it's easier to be the big bad jerk and make my opponent be the beloved one. Yeah.
You did that for 13 years. What did you do when you
Yeah.
left? I mean, that's a long time.
I was very fortunate, again, very, very blessed. I mean, there's definitely, I have this path that I could not predict for you now, even if you asked me. With these experiences that continue to come my way, and I'm very, very fortunate for. One was American Gladiators while I was still wrestling, mind you. I was filming wrestling for a company called TNA Impact Wrestling here at Universal Studios. It aired on Thursday nights, I think, on Spike TV at the time. But what people didn't know was I was flying out to the West Coast in between those dates to go film American Gladiators on NBC at the time. They had just regenerated American Gladiators on NBC. Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali were the hosts, and I played a character called the Beast. And that was out of left field, just being contacted to do that. I wasn't expecting to do that. And just you take these opportunities at the end of it, no matter what I say here. The most important thing I want to say is I think you're supposed to use these opportunities and to help serve others. There has to be a way you could take these blessings and other opportunities, sorry,
No,
and
you're good.
use them to serve the public, especially when you're like a role model to kids and things of that nature. I feel there's a responsibility behind that. A lot of my coworkers and others, and I'm not saying this to poo-poo upon them, but a lot of them don't take it as seriously and really don't care. Versus, I'll never forget the little 5-year-old boy that was terrified of being different, hated being made fun of, was being called all these different bad names because I was in special education. And now being an adult going, okay, hold up. I'm going to see to it that that does not happen to kids nowadays. And if it is, I'm coming to your school and I'm putting on an anti-bullying rally in your gym, or coming to the kids' classroom. And we're going to speak about this because that's a responsibility. You just feel it. And I think
Agreed.
maybe that's why I get blessed. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I think that your approach to service, certainly this is my opinion because I'm a big believer in it. You know, your approach to service does bring the blessings on. So I always encourage people. I'm like, you know, you think you're doing such a great service for everyone else, and you are, but you're also doing a lot for yourself. You just don't realize it. You're doing a lot for the gifts and the things that come back to you. That's not why you do it, but it's a wonderful, wonderful consequence of being involved. But you know, I want to ask you, I think a lot of people take to community service and they want to give back and they feel good about it, like you were talking about, and you're doing something good because either something impacted you as a child or you've seen something that you're like, I want to support that. But then people don't take that to the next level, which you have done. So talk about your, I don't even like to use the word political side, your public servant side.
Thank you.
Because I think that's a big transition. It's one thing to volunteer and be behind the scenes, but it's another thing to really take a deep dive. So talk a little bit about
Uh, you're right. It really is. Honestly, Ted, the day my son Jackson was born changed everything like that. Like I knew it would change things, all right, because truth be told, me and my wife were told for about 11 years there, we have no shot in hell of ever having children. Less than 1% chance. She by herself couldn't have kids. Me by myself was told I would not be able to be a father. So you can imagine what our chances were combined. Okay. So we went through 7, can't see it, my fat, huge hands,
that.
7 bouts of IVF with ICSI. None of them worked.
Wow.
And then by the grace of God, voila, Jackson Morgan, naturally, she gets naturally pregnant somehow. We still don't, I'm just mind boggled by that still to this day. And Jackson Morgan was born. January 7th, 2014. And in that delivery room, I'm not exaggerating, she had an emergency C-section. I shot a text message and asked for them to call me, both WWE and TNA Impact Wrestling. I was going to be going back to WWE, but also wanted to say thank you to my former company, TNA, to let them know I am retiring. I'm not coming back to wrestling. I appreciate everything they've done for me and my family, but it's time for me to be home and be a father to this boy that I was just blessed with seconds ago. I'm not joking. And it was that quick of a switch that went off. I was not planning on going off of my head. I was supposed to go back to WWE that same January. I think it was January 20 something for a pay-per-view called the Royal Rumble. I was going to be a surprise entrant. It was going to be my big comeback. And no, I made this decision right when my son was born. And once he was in my hands, it was game over. So what you start to do, Ted, to give you the Cliff Note version, is you pay attention more. Your glance, your optics, how you see everything changes when you become a father or a mother. And so it becomes, okay, what can I do to help better serve the community that my son is now going to be growing up in, right? But then you start talking to your neighbors, you're like, well, gee, man, that's not original at all. Every parent wants that, duh. And so it becomes, well, what can I do? I have a different platform here. I can still serve using this platform to get word out on certain things and get attention and lots of eyeballs onto certain subjects that matter to us parents. So you start looking who the decision makers are in the city you live. So you start looking, you pull back that curtain finally, because I hated politics, never paid attention to it, essentially, wasn't a fan. All right. I would still argue maybe there's still a point to that where I don't like I'm glad you didn't say the word politic, because it's a dirty word, unfortunately.
It is. It is.
So it just is, brother. You're right. So I pull back the curtain to see who makes these decisions, and you realize you have 5 city commissioners in Longwood that control and decide and interpret law as to what happens in the city, more or less. They're the decision makers, essentially, and they vote for certain policies that are in place that can benefit an entire community. And that's a major, major thing, obviously, right? Major responsibility. And just to clear this and make sure everyone understands this, as mayor here in Longwood, it's more of a ceremonial position in Longwood. In other cities, the mayor does do the day-to-day operations and oversees that type of stuff. In Longwood, we're a team of 5, legitimately. All 5 of us commissioners all have an equal say in what happens in the city. It's in a ceremonial type of way, and the mayor, meaning I chair the meetings. But other than that, we all have the same voting powers in the other 4 commissioners that I serve with. So back to this, I immediately, instead of being an armchair quarterback and saying, well, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? Oh my God, these idiots, why aren't they doing this? Like a lot of people do. I said, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to put my name in a hat and see if I can put my big fat mouth where my money is, and say, if I've got such great ideas, and stop, talking from the sidelines and player hating from the sidelines and get in the game, Matt.
Yep.
And then the rest was history. I got out there, knocked on every door possible here in Longwood 3 separate times. I walked our city to talk to our residents and see the things that they want, because I see this. I don't know if I see this different than other leaders. I'm not quite sure. I just know the way I see this is it's not what I think is best. If I'm doing this job right, Ted, I'm supposed to be everybody's conduit. All right. Yes. And so that means I've got to be out with our residents daily, not some days on, some days off, maybe show up to a farmer's market here or show up to a picture shoot here or whatnot. It's every darn day. You've got to be out there with your residents, communicating with them nonstop, because that's the way you're going to get that feedback on what they like, what they don't like, what they want, what they don't want. And then I do my best to try to take that up on the dais where we all have our commission meetings behind, up in front of, rather, it's a big table in front of us that you see us all sitting in, your city council meetings, and the different items that come up on our agenda. When it's time for me to vote on those things, it's generally based on what the people, the masses, have said they wanted. It's not what Matt Morgans think is best. It's what the city of Longwood residents think is best. And I try to always keep that at the forefront of almost every decision I make, if not all.
Well, you're the voice. You're their voice. That's what
it's supposed to be. You're supposed
to be, right? I mean, that's really what elected officials are supposed to be. Has there been anything that surprised you that they wanted that you thought they wouldn't, or vice versa, that they didn't want that you're like, what? I don't understand. Is there anything that the feedback that you
Yeah.
get from the residents?
No, they've been super positive to all five of us. Again, we got an amazing team. I got to give them a huge shout out because, again, wherever I go, in my opinion, my commissioners are there right with me. All of us are equal. Really quick, Commissioner Abby Shoemaker, Commissioner Richard Drummond, Commissioner Ben Paris, and Deputy Mayor Brian Sackett, and myself. We legit are a team of five up there, and I sincerely mean that. And what's cool about it is we do get that feedback from our residents, right? And you'll have your vocal minority, and that is a tough part. I would say that was the toughest learning curve in the very beginning of this, is realizing you could have 100 to 200 people live and in front of you screaming and yelling with pitchforks and lanterns about something, and then go, well, wait a second here. We're representative of almost 16,000 residents now. We're very close. I bet you after this census, we'll see we have very close to 16,000 residents here in our city, which is big for Longwood.
Awesome.
So 100, 200, you know what I mean? So that's really a vocal
Yes.
minority when you think about it. But by the same token, you'll have some that, like when I went door knocking, I swear to you, one of the number one things that everybody said, I would ask them, hey, if you could bring something to Longwood, maybe even take something out, you have this magic power, what would it be? Everybody said Publix. I mean, they wanted Publix, you would not believe. And my wife, to be honest, is right there with them. And and my neighbor Jeff, I mean, the list goes on. And so anyways, so we're very, very blessed, very fortunate. We're able to, Publix is now, as we speak, about to open here, and they would have opened by now, but because of the pandemic, they had to push it off. But that's an example, right?
That's huge.
We have a bigger than that, if you can believe it, because yes, big brands coming into Longwood is super important for our local economy. It helps our smaller mom and pop owned businesses out immensely. LA Fitness is a great example. We just opened LA Fitness about a month or so, 2 months ago. And what that does now, that brings people into our city that normally may not have come to our city because that gym is closer to them now, right? When they're at work and whatever. And that's going to get eyeballs on other small mom and pop owned businesses that maybe not have been noticed before on the way there. It really does have that type of trickle down effect, no question. And that's why it's important to get big businesses and bigger brands, I should say, brought into this city, especially our small city, because it does help our small owned businesses. And to be clear, our small owned businesses is what our lifeblood in the city is. Legit. In our local economy, it is like it's like something you've never seen before. If you go up to 434, you see it's awesome. We have the most diverse mom and pop owned restaurants and eateries. I'm telling you, it's amazing what we have here.
What are your?
And it's not.
What are your? I love Terra Mia's in Longwood, right? Not to name one, but
you like that? You like Terra Mia? Yeah.
Yeah, just the bar. I love the bar. They're very sweet in there. They're very sweet in there to me. Well, there's lots of great places in Longwood.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask, what's your long-term goal? What's your longer-term goal? Going to continue on political route, or going to stay and make the impact in Longwood, or?
Oh, that's continue to be a leader and continue to serve the community the best way I can. I'll continue to look for ways in which I can serve, obviously, more people. That's the name of this game, in my opinion, is where can I make the best impact and help the most amount of people. You know what I mean? Not that I'm holding down, I have the answer for everything, obviously. That sounds a little over the top and arrogant, but you know what I mean? Like that should be a goal. It should be a goal of what can I do to help better serve? So right now it's continue to stay here and concentrate on what we're doing here in Longwood. I mean, not to undersell this pandemic in any way, stretch, of the imagination, but right now it's imperative that we really help out these small business owners and do the things that we can to help drum up interest, that they have takeout available, they have curbside pickup, whatever I can do to help them get that word out. And that's where it's good, where I have my background and you know what I mean? But as a pro wrestler and American Gladiator and whatever the other reasons people follow me on social media is to help get those words out to the public even more and help bridge the gap between other small business owners and others that could be helping each other throughout this. And that's been my favorite part of this, honestly, is seeing this community come together. We have a special city. Every mayor probably says that, but I will take the city of Longwood over anywhere because of what I've witnessed during this pandemic. This city has not stayed small during this. It has actually grown. And they continue to do it with their hearts here in Longwood, all of our residents and our small business owners and our commission. It's been awesome to watch, and I don't just say that lightly.
Well, you're a joy to have on, my friend. See how fast it goes. What's the best way if somebody wants to reach you, wants to get involved, wants to do something more in their community? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Do you want to reach out to me where I can help them? Oh, good Lord. Any which way on social media. It's at BP Matt Morgan on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook is more of my city of Longwood governmental page, I would say, if you will. And that's Matt Morgan for Longwood, Matt Morgan for Longwood on Facebook. Or you can always hit up my city email, morgan@longwoodfl.org. I also encourage, everybody that is watching this to please go over to our City of Longwood's website. That's www.longwoodfl.org, please. So you can see what we're doing here in the city of Longwood. We have a beautiful $4.5 million rider park that is now has been opened during this pandemic. Has provided a great greenery and space for people that really were holed up in their homes, an opportunity to get out, get some fresh air, go to a butterfly garden. We have so many cool things at that park, and as it opens little by little, more and more, our amphitheater with concerts will be back on again. Our splash pad for kids. We're killing it here in Longwood, and the operative word is we, the city commission.
I love it. Thank you so Matt. Thank you so much, Matt. Ooh, lots of M's there. Matt Morgan, Mayor Matt Morgan. Thank you very much, Mayor Morgan, for being on the show. Really appreciate all you do, man. Love your spirit. You guys got to follow him on social media. He is an open book, and that's what we want with our officials, don't we? We want people who are representing us to be an open book so that we can trust them to do the right thing, which Matt obviously has the heart for. Thank you so much for all you do, my friend. I appreciate you.
My honor. God bless, my friend.
All right. God bless. Thank you so much, Matt Morgan. We did it. Mayor Morgan on the show. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Reach out to him. He's an amazing resource. All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you back here soon.
My honor.
Everybody.